All right. Welcome inside the Double Team podcast. I'm Quentin Thorne alongside my co-host Cam Rucker. Today we are blessed to have Beau Estes on the show. You may know him as the GOAT Mentator. Beau currently works at NBA TV and is the official voice of NBA.com Top 10 Plays. In addition, he's a featured host and columnist for NBA TV. Beau makes himself present in the education of future broadcasters in the world of basketball via the Sports Business Classroom, overseeing the entire media and broadcasting program, something that Cam and I were fortunate enough to participate in. Beau, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Quentin. Thanks, Cameron, for having me on. When I hear something like that, whenever I hear something like that, all it does is make me feel tremendously old, guys. It really does. Like, how much have I done? How long have I been doing this? What's wild is I've probably been at Turner Sports, my current job. There's a decent chance I've been there longer than either of you two have been alive, which really
Dare I ask how long it's been?
1995, 94, 95-ish. I was starting.
Yeah, we're both younger than that. Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah. No, so like I remember I was there when Michael Jordan was a player. I was there when Charles Barkley was a player, and then Charles Barkley came on. So it's been a long, fun ride. But you're right. The important component now is that I've sort of done what I'm supposed to do. And it's great to see you guys and get to know you guys through SBC and doing something like this. It makes me fantastically proud of the work that you guys and your fellow students are doing.
Yeah. So speaking of SBC, can you briefly explain to the listeners what it is and what role you play within it?
Yeah. So Sports Business Classroom is a program that lives right inside the NBA Summer League every year in Las Vegas. It's a program that Albert Hall and Warren Legary of Hall Pass Media have started. And what happened now is that Larry Kuhn, the godfather of the salary cap, the Yoda of the salary cap, the person that everybody that wants to know the salary cap comes to and learns the salary cap, Larry Kuhn is the general manager. So he runs the entire program. Dave Dufour and myself are his lieutenants in the field. I run the media and broadcasting program, and what that means is that I try to put together a curriculum that will benefit our students so that they can get a leg into the media when they come out of our program and when they come out of college or whatever they've done to develop those skills. So it's a tremendous challenge. It is a deep dive into the media, and it's one of those things that I'll be honest with you. When I usually call every student before we get going at Sports Business Classroom, and I talk to them about their goals and what they want to pursue. And when we get there, just before we get there, I tell them, you're not going to believe how hard we're going to work. It's going to be so much work. It's going to be so intense, but it's worth it in the end. It really is. And no matter how many times I tell folks that, it's hard to convey exactly how much work it is, but also how much fun it is. It's
so
both of those at the same time.
Hey, well, Beau, going back, you say you started in 93, 94, right before we were born. Me and Quentin had that experience this summer getting to do everything that you got to. So when did you say you wanted to start your professional career in broadcasting? What brought you to this point?
This is sort of a pathetic story, but it really is true. I live in Los Angeles now. When I was a little kid, I lived in Southern California as well, in a town called Mission Viejo. And I told my parents, my mother, Linda, my father, Terry, I want to be a sportscaster when I was 6 years old. And guys, I never diverted from that dream. I didn't need a guidance counselor in high school. I didn't need direction in college. In high school, I was the sports editor of our newspaper staff. That was the closest I could get. In college, I went right through journalism. I was extraordinarily fortunate that, as you can imagine, 1996, the big story where I lived at that point in Atlanta was the Olympics were coming. So they trained all of us. I mean, every last one of us to broadcast in the Olympics. So when I was in college, I was already working at Turner Sports, doing highlights and supporting, like some of our analysts like Kenny Smith, who's been with us forever. At that point, going into 1996, and they funneled us all through Interesting enough, if you look at me, I went to Clark Atlanta in the end. I was there for my last quarter of college, like every last one of us, and it was a great, enriching experience. And it was just so darn fortunate that I had this directed dream. I always wanted to do this thing, and at the same time that I was sort of bursting onto the scene, the Olympics were coming to Atlanta. So it's been a dream of mine, Cameron, since I was a little kid, and I just never diverted for it. Which is two things: one, it tells you to pursue your dreams, but also in a weird sort of way, I'm just living the life a 6-year-old wanted to live. So you can look at it one of two ways, guys.
Hey, shout out real quick. Just wanted to shout out Beau for HBCU Love Clark Atlanta. Just wanted to shout you out for that one.
There you go, man. I appreciate it. Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was it like in 1996 in the Olympics? Like, what was that environment and culture like in the city of Atlanta around that time that you were starting to break into the field?
Well, if you know anything about Atlanta, particularly then, there's New York, there's LA, maybe even throw in Chicago. These are your big cities. And Atlanta is one of those cities that's trying to come up, right? It's trying to be big time. So I remember being in college when Juan Antonio Samaranch, who was the director of the Olympics back then, said the city of Atlanta was his famous line to announce that the games were coming to Atlanta. And it was just this intense energy. We are going to be in front of the whole world. We got to put a show on in front of the whole world. So there was a tremendous sense of pride. There was a tremendous sense of responsibility. We didn't know if we could do it. I think we did a pretty good job, but Atlanta's a different town, man. Like, it's not Barcelona, which is where the Olympics were coming from, some glorious city on the coast of the Mediterranean. We're an inland city in Georgia that's a major hub, the biggest airport in the world, and we're a city where commerce comes. So we tried to put on the best Olympics we could, and I think we did a pretty good job of that. We had that incredible moment where Muhammad Ali raises the torch with his hand shaking in front of the world. It was an incredible moment. I was there when Carl Lewis, gray hair, much like mine now, won the long jump. And I was there when Michael Johnson, with his gold shoes, goes tearing across the track and sets a world record. It was incredible. And the thing is, Quentin, is that we got to do everything. We had something called an infinity pass that got us anywhere we wanted to be in the Olympics. So you worked your shift and then you went. We took advantage. I was with a buddy named Dave Evans, and we went to, it was Dream Team 2 at that point. So we went to a post-game press conference. And the two Americans sitting up there were David Robinson and Grant Hill.
Wow.
And so, yeah, exactly. Wow is right. So we're sitting there and we've got this infinity badge. Our job is just production assistants. We're supporting production, but nobody's asking these guys questions. So Dave and I, with no story to write, with no show to feed, just start asking questions in the post game because we wanted to be journalists, and we're sitting there watching and we're doing this thing. So it was really a cool sort of immersive experience in some ways. And I'd never thought about this until just now. It was a little like SBC, except maybe less directed. There were less people there, and you were more just go and do on your own. And if you were willing to go and do, you got a really great experience out of it. But it was, man, it was life-changing. I don't think I'd be here today with you guys if it weren't for the Olympics in Atlanta. And it was more than anything else, I just remember how much fun we had.
Well, Beau, you just said something that like really resonated with me just now. You said how you went up to David Robinson. I remember during SBC, I would go to a couple players. An example was Rob Pelinka. And I was just talking to him because he was just walking casually in the arena. And I was like, nobody's saying anything. Nobody knows who this guy is. So I was like, ask him a couple questions like, how do I navigate? What do you do to be successful? A couple of things. And I guess my question to you next would be like, how do you think SBC would help, take me to the next level where I need to be as far as my career goes? Because you were at the Olympics. You just got like thrown out there. You were at one of the biggest stages in the world. And what would you tell me if, like I was in your position now, because I'm trying to get to where you are now, but I just need, I need some advice.
I understand. Well, no, here's what I would say to you is that you sort of hit on something, and maybe intentionally, maybe unintentionally, it's immersive. You're right there in the NBA Summer League. You guys were walking behind the scenes. So you're in the tunnels of the arena. You're bumping into who knows day in and day out. You ran into Pelinka. You could run into David Griffin of the New Orleans Pelicans. I've had students who've talked to him. A Jerry West could walk right into the classroom and you guys could have an opportunity to listen to him for an hour, much like you guys did. And boy, people still talk about that moment when Jerry West walked into the classroom this year with us, and what a great moment that was for all of you students. It was great for all of us, frankly. But it's that idea that you are right there behind the scenes, almost working with every team, in the sense that you're arm in arm with them, and you get a chance. And so the other thing I would say is you guys get to see how we interact with them, because we're professionals and we're peers and stuff like that. So I think you get an idea how to model, when to ask questions, when to let them go do their work, how to ask questions and stuff like that. And that's just a part of being in this business. The real part of this business, and there's no other way to say it, is the hard, grinding, daily work that you have to do to become a professional. It's the work that nobody sees. It's the work when the lights aren't on. I tell everybody who does my job or does any job, there are people who are production assistants at Turner Sports. It's almost like you're working through the gears of a manual shift car. When you come in, you're in first gear and you're as fast as you can go, and you're winding up the gears. Once you have worked, and it's March in a season, you should be in fifth gear now. So all the base stories. You're running. You're cruising at this point, and anything new you can take, any course, any change you can take, and you're cruising. But the hardest part is getting up to speed, and that takes a tremendous amount of work. And there's getting up to speed on the stories with the NBA, but there's also getting up to speed professionally and how you interact, engage, how you advance in your career. And none of us are ever done in that regard. I could live 10 lifetimes doing this job and never be perfect at it. But you're always improving and always course correcting and always getting better. But I just think those first 3, 4, 5 years of your career are such hard work, such a grinding effort, and you have to do the darn work. And once you've done that, you can begin to make professional choices that direct yourself where exactly you want to be in your career.
Yeah. So you talk about being where you want to be in your career, and you've reached the proverbial mountaintop now, being with NBA TV. And one could argue that you have reached where you want to be in your career.
Sure.
But it's still a job at the end of the day. So what aspects of your job do you find most enjoyable, and what aspects of that job do you find to be most challenging?
The most enjoyable part of my job today, and I'm not kidding, is seeing others succeed. It wasn't always that way. I'm not going to lie to you and give you some Pollyanna story that it wasn't. At some point, if you're saying I'm going to stick my face on national television and I'm going to tell you what's going on in the world of basketball, some of that's about you, right? I mean, I'm not going to lie. Some of that's about you. So at one point, it really was about proving that Beau Estes is the right guy to be on TV and doing that. And then just like in basketball, just like in football, just like in sports, there's a moment when the light goes on and you get it and you're competent, and whatever competency you have, you can do the job and you feel comfortable with that. And that's a reward in itself, Quentin. I'm not lying to you. When you are like, I remember a few years ago, there was an important basketball story. The NBA was involved with Daryl Morey in a controversy in China. And at 3 a.m., Commissioner Adam Silver was having a press conference, and I had to go down and host that press conference. And I knew before I went on air, the producers are on my ear, Beau, everybody's going to be watching this. We have to get the details right. And I remember being so confident that I would, and afterwards getting off the air and being like, yeah, we pretty much nailed that, but not surprised, and just like, I don't know why, because I've done it for years, but it hit me. Then you're like, because you can do this. Like, people aren't surprised when they can go out and do a job. So that's very rewarding. But now I want to see other people succeed because, like you said, I've gotten wherever it is I'm supposed to be. I may choose a different job in 5 years. I may do something differently, but I am a competent professional broadcaster. So that's where I'm supposed to be. So that's the joy of it. The challenge of it now is when people struggle, when we as a group struggle, and whether it's for lack of effort, whether it's for lack of direction, whether it's for lack of technical support, whatever it is, when we don't put on a good product, and anchors and hosts and broadcasters will tell you it's your face out there, it's your voice out there, so there is some pressure associated with that, and we feel a pressure. So when things go wrong, whatever it is, when he was a coach, when Magic Johnson was a coach, he was very frustrated with his players. And the thing you got is that if you're a first year player that's a second round pick out of Missouri and you're not playing as well as Magic Johnson, well, duh. Of course
Yeah,
you're not.
yeah,
You're
obviously,
new.
yeah.
The experience is new. So I try to maintain a perspective on my frustration, but sometimes it is tough. So that would be the biggest challenge in my job.
Okay, well, I just want to click on a different topic regards to the NBA. As you probably know, Bill Russell just passed. The NBA is starting to honor him by retiring his number league wide. He also is joining the likes of Wayne Gretzky and Jackie Robinson as far as players who are getting their numbers retired. So I just want to get your input on that. And what do you think Bill Russell's impact on the league was? What did he bring to the table, not just basketball wise, but also, social wise and outside of basketball?
Well, okay, so two things there. Obviously, Bill Russell is the biggest winner in the history of this sport.
I love him.
Nobody has done it more. Nobody has done it bigger than Bill Russell in that run with the Boston Celtics. And his impact on the sport is, in one sense, just that. He's the biggest winner in the history of the sport, but it's bigger than that. He is the Jackie Robinson of our sport in some sense, not because he was the first, but because he was the most important and because he was the focal point and because he took the most heat in a city in Boston that wasn't the most receptive to somebody who looked like him. Let's just be honest about what his challenges were. If you know anything about his story, his challenges didn't end when he left the basketball court. He faced hatred. He faced a lot of stuff off the basketball court in his home life. No matter how big a man you are, that is both scary. I'm sure it was scary, and also just genuinely awful. So I think the fact that he was able to push through and get so many other people to that mountaintop is a part of his legacy. And I'm not going to be forget the guy's interactions with somebody like a Muhammad Ali, a Jim Brown, and stuff like that. He is more than basketball. He is one of our heroes as far as being a social, the social aspect of the NBA, a social protest. He's just one of the faces that you look to and say, that's a guy who got us to a better place. And he took the heat to make that happen. And that's no small thing because there's an easy way out. And some people can take that. He didn't take that. And so for him to come through and be on the other side of that, I'm glad. One thing I'm really glad is that Bill Russell lived a long life so that he got to see where we got to. That's important to me because somebody who sacrificed so much, as much as our worlds can seem crazy now, It's better for a guy that looks like him in the NBA now than when he came up. So that improvement is in large part due to Bill Russell, and I think he'd have to feel good about that.
I just want to touch on one more thing. I just kind of feel like Bill doesn't get the respect he deserves either, because, like he said, he's the pioneer. He came through with all
Sure.
the racism going on and still won 11 titles, man. Like that's unheard of. Like that's really unheard of.
No, and you're right. Like, years ago, a colleague of mine, Steve Smith, over at NBA TV, asked us to do a Mount Rushmore. And that's where all this Mount Rushmore discussion began with Steve Smith doing this years and years ago. Because what Steve wanted to do was strip away your starting five. He wanted to limit it to four because it just sort of messes with your head. And so, it's just a challenge to think of an NBA Mount Rushmore without Bill Russell. But a lot of people will do an NBA Mount Rushmore without Bill Russell. Like if you go through right away, name one for everybody's going to be Michael Jordan. Then 2 and 3 are going to be LeBron and Kareem in some order, and then you got one left, right? So it gets tight after that. So Bill Russell, for all he's done, deserves a very exalted place in NBA history.
I feel like
I agree with that, especially because when you look at a Mount Rushmore, you have to emphasize not only are we talking pure talent, but we're talking like in terms of impacting the game permanently. It's hard to have that conversation without having Bill Russell in the mix. So unfortunately, we're starting to run low on time. So just to have a little bit something more fun and lighthearted here and maybe catch you on the fly real quick. If you had to pick a way too early NBA champion for this season, who would it be and why?
Okay, so here, this is always fun. I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Bucks.
Okay.
It's always injury dependent. All these things are injury dependent. They have the single best player in the league, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, best offense, best defense combined player in the league. If Chris Middleton's healthy last year, I believe they win the NBA championship. I don't ever put an asterisk on a championship, though. I will never, ever, ever. I think Golden State deserved to win that championship. They were in the right place. And Steph Curry is a mind-boggling, historically great player. I still believe if they're healthy, they win it last year. But I think Milwaukee's the best team, and I think they got the best player coming right into his prime, and he's hungry. So I'll go Bucks there.
Yeah, Giannis is a game wrecker, and he shows that every single time he hits the court.
Q, who you got?
Sorry?
Who do you have? Q, who do you have?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, man. I want to say the Suns. I don't think it's going to be the Suns, but part of me feels like I want it to be them. I think that with everything going on in regards to Chris Paul and his potential regression is going to be probably the biggest thing for me. But I could see it being Phoenix. They came close. They got punched in the nose by a Mavericks team that I think that they underestimated. They overlooked a little bit. So yeah, here we go. We can't see it right now, Cam, but I know
it goes in and out of your background. But so
know.
At some point, is Chris Paul going to get old?
I know that's what I'm talking about. Is he going to regress or not? That's the biggest conversation that you have in regards to Phoenix.
Guys, I'm gonna have to go Phoenix too because Chris Paul, WSSU student currently too. So you know we going with the Suns.
We're rocking with Chris.
Oh yeah,
fandom. I love it.
All the way.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, that is all the time that we have now. But thank you so much, Beau, for coming on and for taking the time out of your day to talk with us.
Yes,
so for my co-host, Cam Rucker, I'm Quentin Thorne, and we will see you all next episode.
Peace.